on behalf of the Harvard Graduate School of Education, I want to welcome all of you to our first annual Restorative Justice Workshop Conference. And please note that I said annual because I fully expect that this will become a wonderful new tradition that students many, many years down the road are going to carry on this tradition, and hopefully this time next year we'll be having our second annual Restorative Justice Workshop. My name is Liz Thurston, and I'm the Director of Student Affairs here at the Ed School. And I just told Priti I was honored just to do a short, brief introduction and welcome. We have HGSE students, we have students across other Harvard schools, we have people from the community. It's just really wonderful at this really busy time of the year, especially for students, to have so many of you here to engage in this really important dialogue. So restorative justice. We're going to have lots of conversation, lots of dialogue about what that looks like. What does that mean for our society? What does that mean for us as educators? What does that mean for us in whatever profession that we're going into? And how can we transform our society with restorative justice? So before I introduce Priti, who's going to introduce our keynote speaker, I want to acknowledge the students who are a part of the Coalition for Restorative Justice at Harvard, who've actually made this happen and have been working extremely hard for a very long time to make this happen. So if I could just ask them to stand or wave their hand. Priti? Colleen McCann. Is Colleen in the room? No. Radhika Kandawal. Radhika. Dave Lewis. There's Dave. Hannah Finnegan. Laura Shear. Samantha Hale. Ayelet Ronan. Vanya Anaya, Natalie Orozco, Junia Kim, Denise Del Aguila, and last but not least, Phil Vasquez. And I want to put in one shameless plug for our HGSE students. We're in the process, we're going to get through commencement, but we are in the process already, as you can imagine, of planning and looking towards the next academic year. And we're hoping to organize a student advisory committee that will help us with orientation, specifically around the diversity portion that we do in orientation. So any of you HGSE students that are interested, if you'd be in touch with me or my office, it would be greatly appreciated. Whether you're going to be in the area or not in the area, either way, we would welcome your help. And now I'm going to turn it over to Priti.
Hello, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. It's such an awesome crowd. On behalf of the Coalition for Restorative Justice here at Harvard, where the names that Liz just mentioned, we are just really thrilled and humbled by this amazing event and that so many people are interested in this topic. It's my pleasure to introduce to you our keynote speaker, Janet Connors, and I want to tell you a little bit about her. So I finally met Janet for the first time in person over a month ago at Charlestown High School, while she was facilitating a circle for their Wednesday Justice League meetings. At Justice League at Charlestown, students are able to address discipline issues through restorative processes alongside their peers and community members. The issue at this meeting actually seemed like a simple one. A student had a cell phone out in class and the teacher had seen and reported it. But the conflict lay deeper than that. The conversation that ensued unearthed issues of identity, of school policy, of student commitment, and of teacher motivations. And at the heart of that conversation was Janet. With patience, a gentle sense of humor and empathy, she facilitated understanding where there was confusion, and she facilitated grace where there was frustration. I was pretty much in awe. Janet's career has taken her through 40 years of community and social justice work in Dorchester, where she has lived and worked all of her life. She is a fixture in this community. She's a community fellow and trainer with the Center for Restorative Justice at Suffolk. and she's a board member of Reflect and Strengthen. She's on the leadership team of both Mothers for Justice and Equality and the Family Advisory Committee for the Department of Children and Families. And she's a survivor to survivor support consultant to the Beth Israel Deaconess Violence Prevention and Recovery Center. Janet does a ton for this community. It's amazing. She's also a mother of 3 children, and she's a survivor of violence that done to her own family. So Janet speaks with conviction, humility, and wisdom. Her passion for this work has really, really inspired me, and I really hope that it inspires all of you guys tonight as well. It's my honor to bring to the podium Janet Connors.
Thank you, everybody. It's an honor to be here. And I just want to say that if I was the heart of Justice League, the soul is sitting right up there. There they are. All right. And I first, before I even begin, want to pay tribute to Indigenous peoples who pass these teachings along to us. It is a gift that they have given us. I pray every day that I use this gift in a good way. I want to quote you a guiding principle that I use, and it is a very simple quote by Chief Justice Robert Yazzie of the Navajo Nation. And it says, "You cannot get to a good place in a bad way." Let me ask you to think about, as I speak, what does justice mean to you? Some of you in the audience have heard bits and pieces of what I'll have to say today, so bear with it. 11 and a half years ago, my 19-year-old son Joel, I need some light. My 19-year-old son Joel was murdered. This is the most profound loss I've ever known. Though the stormy, ferocious surf that raged in the immediate aftermath of Joel's murder has, for the most part, subsided, turbulent undercurrents still catch me off guard as they surge through my soul. Their continuous ripples course through my veins, and even now, as I stand before you, they shake me to my core. The waters that hold the possible solutions and resolutions are wider and deeper than my own healing. My healing is tied to the community of which I am a part. My justice is bound to that beloved community. My community needs both justice and healing. Huge as the horrific loss of my son's life is, and the taking of it, the problem of violence and the quest for peace is deeper than my individual loss. Huge as the loss of Joel's promise and potential is, the maintenance of a society where young people are flushed down the school-to-prison pipeline is just as sad, just as wrong. My son's killers went swirling around and around in that pipeline. My story is not just my story. The students you will soon meet have their own stories to tell. All of you have stories to tell. Through our stories, we travel many paths that can lead to healing and to justice. All of our stories are powerful in their influence and in their teachings. I tell my story today to implore you to explore how restorative practices can foster positive relationships and overall climate in the school community you are a part of now or will be in the future. I tell my story because I believe in the hope and promise of our young people. I believe in humanity and that there are few truly evil people in this world. And that even those who have become evil were not born that way. There ain't no natural born killers. It is on all of us in society to understand the root cause of why hurt people hurt people. I believe we as human beings hold within ourselves a core self, a true self, a self that is wise and powerful. And while the things that we do and the things that we say may keep us from that core of goodness, may help us to stray from it, we can always return to that place that is deep inside of us. I believe in community. I believe that plenty of justice and injustice takes place in our schools and communities on a daily basis. Justice is not only held in and dealt by the hands of the powers that be in our systems. I believe that justice is held in and dealt by the heart and soul of community. We must heal our communities. We have to heal the harms. The individual, the familial, the collective, societal hurts that have caused a rupture in the souls of those who respond to their own unhealed hearts by causing harm to others, or by turning it inward and sabotaging themselves. We must help individuals in this healing and in turn address the harms of the collective community to which they belong. Restorative justice is a healing justice. Its practices offer an array of creative alternative solutions which bring us closer to our ultimate goal of being in good relationship with one another. So now let me get to telling you my story. I've been a community and social justice activist who has lived in Dorchester and worked with children and families in Boston neighborhoods all my life. I've worked with homeless families, families of prisoners, families involved in DCF, DYS. I've worked in positive youth development programs, family strengthening, family support programs, abuse and violence prevention programs. Yet, I could not keep my own son from being killed. On January 31st, 2001, Joel was murdered. The grief and anger we held as family and friends of Jojo was overwhelming. To prevent more violence, we held circles with my son's friends. In these circles, we cried, we raged together. We explored the very natural human reaction to want to take revenge. And we explored how if we did that, we became the very thing that was causing us so much pain. And so we made agreements of how to handle those feelings without causing any further harm. In Joel's name, nobody else dies or gets hurt. That was the mantra put forward. I asked the young people to let the system take its course. It was a huge leap of faith to do so myself and to ask them to do so as well. Many of us knew the system was not always trustworthy in our communities. The young people kept their agreements. No more harm came to anyone else. This is restorative justice. When my son was killed and 4 young men were arrested, I was overwhelmingly struck by the waste of 5 young people's lives. I couldn't imagine how their mothers must be feeling. I could feel the foundation of my belief system just starting to crumble. I could not reconcile the fact that we in a civilized society still put people in cages. Yet, I was glad that they had been caught, and I knew that they had to be held accountable somehow. I wondered, what was justice going to mean to me? Nothing brings my Jojo back. Not even if all of them were imprisoned for life. Not even all the horrible things that might have happened to them in prison. None of it brings my son back. But they are not going to be in prison for life. They are coming back. They're coming back to community. 2 of them already have. What will they be like after incarceration is what I'm thinking. Will they come out and continue to do dirt? And if so, will we in community lose out again? Yeah, we will. As someone who'd worked with children and families all my life, I had to ask myself, where did we fail these kids? Where did we fail these young men that they could get to a place where they could rob people on the streets and in their homes on a routine basis, where they could kill someone? I cannot help but wonder, what if they had had a series of restorative encounters for smaller infractions? Could it have kept them from skipping school, from quitting school, from boosting sneakers and clothes, from turning to drug use and drug dealing, from becoming thieves, home invaders? Could it have kept them from becoming murderers? Would they have been kept from going to prison? Would my son still be alive? Before the arrests, restless in the wee hours of the night, I write in my journal, who are these monsters? The next night, upon hours of reflection, right as the darkest hour gives way to the dawn, in the hush of the morning, it whispers to me, and I write again, no, we are not looking for monsters. We are looking for other young people. When I think of them as monsters, I let them off the hook. Because monsters are supposed to hurt people. People are not supposed to hurt other people. It is when I hold them in their humanity that I hold them accountable. When the streets began talking, some of the names that came up were kids and families that I had worked with over the years. In the end, none of them were actually involved, but they were associated with those who were responsible for my son's murder. Like it or not, we are all profoundly interconnected. When we went to court, originally, all 4 men were charged with murder 1. In the end, 3 were convicted of manslaughter with sentences that varied in length from 8 to 10, 10 to 12, and 18 to 20 years, depending on plea arrangements and agreements to testify or not. My son's actual murder went to trial and beat his case. We did not get justice. This began my personal journey in restorative justice, my journey to heal my spirit and to feel justice for my son's life, for me, my family, and for my community. During the court proceedings, I was so aware of how much pain the families of these young men were in as well. This situation is devastating to all. The ripples changed the course of every person and family involved. Each life has been permanently altered. There are no winners here. 2 of the families of these young men treated us terribly. Conversely, the 2 families of the young men who did testify and I had beautiful and powerful exchanges. After my family and I had read our impact statements, one of the mothers, along with his grandmother, aunt, and cousin, expressed their sorrow to us. We all sobbed and hugged. Another young man's parents expressed their sorrow to me in the hallway during a lunch break. When we returned to the courtroom, that mother and I held hands as her son was being sentenced. She was sitting next to me on a bench. Our hands just extended to one another, almost on their own. We were 2 mothers with broken hearts. Whenever I think about how Joel's killer was acquitted, I can still hear the scream that erupted from the belly of my soul. He got away with murder. He got away with murder. In my attempts to reconcile this injustice, I searched my soul. I believe there is a purpose to every happening. I struggled to find what purpose could possibly be worth the taking of my son's life. And now I had to find what purpose there could be to his murderer being acquitted. I cried and I cried and I tried to make sense of it all. I came to accept that he got a second chance and that there must be a divine purpose as to why. I came to think of him as another mother's son. I prayed that he would take advantage of this divine chance that he had been given. This young man, however, has continued to do dirt in the community. He is now serving time for several other crimes. He is out of control in part, I believe, because he has never been held accountable for the murder of my son. I wonder if he has ever been held accountable for much of anything in his life. Even before killing Joel, he had spent time in DYS. He had been punished, but punishment alone is not true accountability. Punishment is imposed. Accountability comes from one's heart and soul. As human beings, we may need support and understanding when we make mistakes, but we also need to be held accountable when we do something that's wrong. I have come to know not guilty does not mean innocent. I have come to know that in the end, my son's murderer will be held accountable by a power higher than any court in this land. One simply cannot get away with murder. I had to believe that wherever justice is interrupted, it can at least be partially restored. That wherever dignity is taken away, it can be returned. I have made and continue to make my own justice. I have met with two of the young men who are responsible in my son's murder. Their names are Michael and John. I've had two separate exchanges with each of them. My main message to them was, I want you to understand what you took when you took my son from me and my family. I want you to understand how lucky you are and how lucky your family is that you still have your life to live. I know that it does me absolutely no good to wish you a rotten life. As members of the same community, the side effects of your leading a rotten life would only spew into my own. I want my son's life and the taking of it to matter enough to you for it to make a difference in how you live yours. Because you have caused enough heartache and harm to my family, your family, and our community, because you still have your life to live, because you still have your family and community to be a part of, I expect you to live your life in a good way, because you owe it to my son's honor. You owe it to me and my family. You owe it to your own family, and you owe it to our community. You make reparation to me by causing no more harm to self, family, and community. You make reparation to me by living your life in a good way. The process that I met with them in is a facilitated process known as victim-offender dialogue. I prefer to call it restorative dialogue. We all, as human beings, hold the potential to be both victims and offenders. To me, the separation of people in community into victims and offenders only perpetuates the current reality of the cycle of violence that we are stuck spinning around and around in. We must tend to the needs and obligations of all in the community to end this cycle, those harmed and those who cause it. I first met with Michael 6.5 years ago in January 2006. I shared pictures of my son from the time he was a little bitty baby to the last pictures I had of Joel and I, to the last pictures I had of Joel, which was that New Year's Eve with his friends. Michael and I talked about being Irish American, about growing up working class, about the values we had learned in our families, our church, our community, where and why he had strayed from those values and what he needed to do to return to them. We talked about the fact that he could never make full amends to me because he cannot bring Joel back to us. He struggled with an apology, and he kept noting how trite it was. I acknowledged that that was true, but you know what? I said, you know what, Michael, it's all you got, so you might as well give it to me. So he did. And we talked about what he would do when he got out. He made commitments to cause no more harm to me and mine, himself and his family, and to our communities. He said proof of his intent would have to come in time. He still had 5 years to serve. My daughter, Shayna, who has supported me in these dialogues, did implore me to be cautious. Don't throw your pearls in the mud, Mama, is what she said to me. With her words of loving wisdom in my heart, I then offered him a piece of my forgiveness, and I told him he could have the rest of it when he walked out these prison doors and caused no more harm to self, to family, or community. From time to time, he'd send a message to me through the dialogue facilitator. One of those messages was for me to tell my daughter that I did not throw my pearls in the mud. He says he wears them around his neck as a reminder to keep him going in a good direction. A few days after that first meeting, I got a phone call checking in on me from the director of programs at that prison, which was Susan Baranowski. He also told me that in 27 years of working for the DOC, that was his best day of work. RJ is like that. Its profound impact spills over and reaches people and places where it is least expected to do so. I met with the second young man for the first time. His name is John, 4.5 years ago in December of 2007. When I met with him, he was coming up on release. He had earned good time. He's the one that got 8 to 10. I knew I wanted something concrete from him. We talked about many of the same things as Michael and I had talked about, shared the pictures and all of the values of being working class, of growing up in communities like Dorchester and Southie. John talked about how at first and for some time after the murder, in his mind it was all about him, about not getting caught, about making the best deal when caught, about going to a better prison than another at sentencing. It was all about what he had lost and the disruption of his life and his relationships. When he started going to NA and AA in the joint, his perception changed. He realized and owned responsibility for all the hurt and pain he had caused to so many people. He was a mentor on the prison block and was leading 12-step groups by the time I met with him. I knew his mother used to go to my son's grave. So I asked him if when he was released, he would stand with me on Joel's grave with the dialogue facilitator, his mother and his father, to bear witness to him making some commitments. On June 19th, 2007, we stood together at the cemetery. One by one, he agreed to keep commitments to stay sober, to get a job and earn an honest living, to talk to young people about his mistakes, to cause no more harm to self, family, and community. He read a poem that he wrote. Broken hearts, shed tears, and a soul full of shame. As I reflect, there's no one but myself to blame. Families torn apart and one life lost. If I could change the past, I'd do so at any cost. A young man's future, never to be seen. A family's devastation, never to be serene. To deserve any punishment that may come my way, all that's to do is to kneel down and pray. wanting to say sorry, knowing it's not enough. Living with that, it's going to be tough. A changed man, unable to change his past. A positive future, I promise to last. We were all crying, sobbing. We all hugged as we said goodbyes. He is keeping those commitments. He has a son and has thanked me for helping him to find and keep a better life for himself and his family. He graduated last year with a B average from a trade school. My second meeting with Michael came right before 2010 Thanksgiving, as he was about to be paroled. I asked his mother to come and bring pictures of Michael growing up. They shared some of the stories behind the pictures with me. We talked about the power of Michael's story to help other young people from making similar mistakes. Basically, the theme of our conversation was, Michael, last time we met, it was about me, my family and community. The impact what you did had on us, it was about the life you helped to steal away from us. This time, it's about you, your family and your community. The impact what you did had on them. It's all about the life you still have to live and how you're going to live it. As we were meeting right before Thanksgiving, I asked him what did he have to be thankful for. He was overwhelmed emotionally. He said, everything. Freedom, family, friends, you, a second chance. We talked about how lucky he was that he was going to get to spend his holidays with his family and friends, and we talked about how much I wanted to pull a bow on Christmas morning and have my son jump out of a box. I wished him a good homecoming and wished both he and his mother good holidays. I told them a story of a village in South Africa where when a person acts irresponsibly, unjustly, or in harmful ways, he or she is placed in the center of a circle. One at a time, members of the circle speak about all the good things this person has done in their life, all their positive attributes, good deeds, strengths, and kindnesses are recited carefully, truthfully, and at length. He or she is appreciated back into the better part of themselves, literally remembered back into alignment with community. His mother gasped as I read this, and they both had tears in their eyes. I wonder if, as a matter of course, when small infractions occur, we were to use a similar ritual in our families, schools, and youth centers, if we would have less serious harm caused to others. As we came to a close, I looked Michael in the eyes, and he looked me in mine. I told him, Michael, I have a broken heart that will never, ever, ever heal. Your mother has a broken heart, and what you do now can heal hers. And knowing that her heart is healing will help to soothe mine. We ended our meeting with tears and hugs. His mother linked her arm in mine, and he watched his mother and Joel's mother walk down the hallway and through the door out into the world arm in arm. This is restorative justice. For me, this was the right thing to do. My forgiveness was a gift to them and a gift to myself. They did not entirely pay their debt to community while incarcerated. It is upon reentry that they truly pay that off. We need to help people come back in a good way, stop putting up barriers to them, living in a good way. We need to hold people returning from prison to community and to family with a balance of support and accountability. Both these young men are keeping their commitments. We will soon sit together on a panel about the benefits of such dialogues. One of them says he is glad to have the opportunity to do so because he had just said to his wife that he needed to stand for something, that he felt he needed to be doing something more. This is restorative justice. In my experience, forgiveness happens on two levels. A spiritual level is what I do in prayer. I do this for myself and my God, who I was taught is an all-merciful God. I do this to be free of a tumultuous, never-ending anger that could ravage my soul and turn my heart to stone if I let it. On a practical level, forgiveness though, on a practical level, on an eye-to-eye, face-to-face level, forgiveness comes with accountability. I have the privilege of working with surviving families and friends of homicide victims through the Louis Brown Peace Institute, the Homicide Support Services Program at the Center for Violence Prevention and Recovery at Beth Israel, through Mothers for Justice and Equality. There are countless ways we have used circles with survivors, healing circles to process grief and loss, peace circles to process feelings of revenge and make commitments to keep the peace, to prepare and debrief from court experiences, to hold ceremonies that remember and honor the loved ones, to name a few. I work in partnership with colleagues at the Center for Restorative Justice at Suffolk University and Just Circles to train others in the use of restorative practices in community and schools, including restorative discipline as alternatives to suspension. School by school, student by student, we hope to dismantle the school-to-prison pipeline. I also have the honor of working with youth in schools and community centers, of holding circles to resolve conflicts, to ensure fair discipline, and to build stronger learning communities. Many students and young people know classmates, friends, neighbors, and relatives who were killed. They are the forgotten survivors. Their unmet needs foster continued cycles of violence. Restorative circles in schools promote social emotional literacy, create a sense of belonging, enhance one's ability to empathize, and foster strong and healthy relationships. Restorative circles in the broader community can do the same. The time is now. We have what we need. We are the ones we've been waiting for. I encourage you earnestly to find ways to make it happen, to work towards overcoming the barriers and find the places where the paradigm shift needs to occur. I urge you to explore the potential possibility that these practices could have for our young people and in turn for all of us in community. That shift and all of this begins with a change in mindset and attitude through an intentional return to and re-examination of our values. What values do we hold? Which are the values most commonly held? Where are we true to them in our personal and professional lives? Are our systems and practices in line with our values? It is through this restorative work, both personal and professional, that I am once again able to find joy, experience satisfaction, and feel hopeful. In closing, I want to sum up what restorative justice means to me. RJ is about humanity and community, about human needs and obligations, about belonging and inclusion. It embraces the idea that we are all profoundly interconnected with and to one another, that each person, no matter what they've done, has value to the larger community. It provides a means to give voice and expression to that value. RJ explores how we as people choose to use those needs, obligations, and interconnectedness to restore balance when justice has been interrupted. Our restorative Lady Justice helps to create understanding and empathy. She teaches us to learn from our mistakes. She holds in her scales a balance of support and accountability, and through that balance encourages us to make things right and to hold each other in our mutual humanity. Our restorative Lady Justice sees. She sees through the eyes of us all. She has helped me to restore my life's work and to know its true value. She has nursed me through the transformation of my pain inspired me to continue in my work even more diligently than I did before. She has indeed taught me to know what justice means to me and what it means for me. Sadly, she, even in all of her wisdom, cannot bring my son Joel back. She does guide me, though, as I bring him forward in everything I do. Finally, I ask you once again, what does justice mean to you? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And now I want to introduce to you Sunny Pai, who is the director of Diploma Plus program at Charlestown High, who has made space for restorative practices, for building relationships, for building community. And I just love Sunny Pai, and I love Diploma Plus, and I love the students, and you're going to hear from all of them. Thanks. Bye.
I want to thank the people who organized this conference for the hard work you've done to put this together and for inviting us, even though you're making me go after Janet, which I didn't fully get while I was sitting there as she was speaking. Thank you, Janet. So there's people in this room that are far more experienced in restorative justice than I am, and probably also more experienced as practitioners in school. But my role here, I think, is to look at the link between the two. I think especially after hearing someone like Janet, it's very difficult to argue with the merits of restorative justice and what it is. And of course, people want to disrupt the school-to-prison pipeline. But when you're working in a school, and if anyone here has worked in a school, it's very easy to just get lost and get this tunnel vision as you're in that place. And Janet spoke about the justice system and putting faith in the justice system. To work in a public school, you need to put faith into the public school system. And at a time when public school systems and educators are sort of under attack, I think it's critical that you put faith in that broken system and then try to work inside of there. So acknowledging that the public schools are not always all that they're supposed to be, and these practices around suspension and punishment happen for practical reasons. They happen because it's very difficult to make the time and carve out the time in a school day to have a truly restorative conversation around what Janet called sort of smaller offenses that lead up to these larger offenses that are unchangeable, that you can't turn back from. So I think that's one of the things that we're here to talk about today, and I think at Charlestown we have not necessarily solved that conundrum, but we have created some space to begin that work and start that work. And I'm very happy for anyone here, if you want to come visit our program or come see what's going on, we're very happy to have visitors. We are very, very much a work in progress, but you'll see what's going on. So just very quickly, Charlestown High School is a Boston public high school, grades 9 through 12, 950 students. And just to give you a sense of Boston's system, Boston has schools where students take tests to get into. So they're very competitive, and very strong academic students tend to go to those schools like Boston Latin School. Then you've got schools that are called pilot schools or other schools that have an application to get into. And then you've got district schools where you just check a box, or if you don't check a box, you go to those schools. Charlestown is one of those schools. So Boston, to understand, is a very, very tiered system. You do not have equal student populations in every building. And to give a sense, the incoming ninth graders at Charlestown, 2/3 of them have failed all or all but one of their core classes in 8th grade. So if you think about a student population moving into a school, you can imagine what kind of relationship they might have with school and with academics when they come in. Our Diploma Plus program is one part of the school. We're 75 students. where for students that have not been successful in the regular school, they come into our program, they have a slightly different schedule, they have a smaller community, and we use restorative justice within that community. That's all I'm going to say. If you have questions about us, we'll be around. But what I really want to do is introduce our students so you can hear from them and hear their stories. So thanks for having us here, and ask the students come down.
Hello, everybody. Getting our mics on. So I just want to thank these 4 students for joining us today. Yeah, I think you should give them a round of applause. Laura and I have been have had the privilege of meeting with these students over the past month and figuring out what this is going to look like. So I think what we'll do is start with Shanice and have them each introduce themselves.
Well, hi, my name is Shanice. I'm a senior in Diploma Plus, and I will be attending Lawrence University this fall.
Hi, my name is Gloria Kennedy. I'm 17 years old, and I'm in Diploma Plus 2. I'm in Diploma Plus 3, and I'm a senior. So I got accepted into Pine Manor College and Northeastern University.
What's going on? My name is Paul. I in DP2 for Charlestown, so I got 1 more year on me. And if I was going to a college, I want to go to something technical that's like really computer. I love computers, so yeah. That's it, yeah.
Hello,
Too low, man.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
my name is Sidon. I'm in DP2, which is junior year, and when I go to college, I plan on like majoring in engineering, and that's yeah.
Thanks, guys. So we want to get a little bit deeper into these introductions so we can get a little bit of an idea of what is bringing you here today. So we'll just go through again and share a little bit of our stories and maybe in particular certain challenges and how restorative justice has played a role in your life. So Sidon, let's...
All right. My main challenge, like my biggest challenge I had was moving away from my family and friends and coming here to Boston. I didn't really know anyone or like just Boston itself, and therefore like me, really I didn't start to care for anything because of the fact that it was like I was still angry at the fact that I had to move. So then I started to like flunk in school and just didn't really have any like future in mind for myself. Then last year I got like at the end of the school year I got a choice to join DP, which is Diploma Plus, and I actually thought about it for a while, and then I felt like that's a big opportunity to like turn my life over and actually like set a future for myself. So then I got accepted to DP, and then ever since there, I started to do better. And now that I get any type of opportunity to do anything like this, I jump to it and then don't even look back at it.
Thanks.
So once again, I'm Paul. Challenges. I had not even like getting into DB at first, like getting out to another school was a hard thing for me and my mom. Like at first, my first 2 years were when I went to sit on a hill. It wasn't great. It wasn't. It was. So my mom's like, "Why don't you go to another school?" I'm like, "Let's do that." So it was a few choices, but I didn't know which one to really choose. And then for some reason, out of all the choices we picked, we got Charlestown, and I was like, I didn't know it was like a bad school, but it wasn't like a school for me. It was just too big. So I'm like, I don't want to go there. So I had no choice. So I went there, and the first thing they say is like, "You're going to DP." And I'm like, okay, what's that? And sure, why not? Let's see what this is. Let's really go out and see what this is about. So first day, I remember sitting down, and Mr. Pai was there. He's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "Who are you?" I'm like, "I'm Paul." And then he introduced me to all the teachers. Then he had me sit in his office with, doing a test to see if I can get into to what DP I can get into. And he had it was like when the iPad was first cool, and I was like, so I did the test on the iPad, and I was like, oh, this is cool. So I was like, if this is what DP is like, well, I'm in, you know. I'm definitely in. So that was the choice I made. And then I can't say my first year was the best. It was so-so. I started I wasn't missing days, but I was coming in really late, and I was like, for some reason this year, I was like, I have to turn this around. I really have to turn this around. And I really did. And then my grades got better. My attendance is almost perfect. And it just, once I got into restorative justice, I was like, all right, time to do some changes, you know? So yeah, that's my story.
Again, my name is Gloria. My story is a little bit different. I was born and raised in Lynn, Massachusetts, but I moved to Providence, Rhode Island for a little while. And after losing my mom to cancer, that's when I had to make some big changes. And when I came here, I stayed with Miss Kennedy, who was also a part of Diploma Plus. She works with Mr. Pai, and so having someone who's related to me in some ways is what helps me succeed in Diploma Plus, because when I moved here, I didn't know much about Diploma Plus. It was kind of a no-option thing. I had to just go there because I wasn't really a resident of Massachusetts for 6 months to be able to get into the schools that I wanted to get into. So because she had already worked in Diploma Plus, she said this would be a good fit for you, because during my 10th grade year in a school in Providence, Rhode Island, I wasn't doing so well. It was all due to the fact that my mom was sick, and I was starting to slack in grades, and I just needed something different. So when I came to Boston, I was out of school for forever. It was so long since I've been to school. So I started Diploma Plus in the middle of February, and I could say that I made some friends and I made some changes, and now that I'm a senior in Diploma Plus, it feels really great. And being a part of the restorative justice, I believe that it's definitely helped me with my social skills, and it's also helped me to learn from other people's mistakes, because I used to be very quiet in class. I never used to raise my hand to answer questions or really participate, and it was just all because I had a big fear of what would they say, how I'll get judged, that type of thing. And I think that the first year of restorative justice for me is a great experience, because I learn a lot, and being part of restorative justice also leads me to a lot of my dreams, because I never really had dreams. All I knew was that I wanted to be successful and happy. But being a part of the restorative justice, I think that I think that now it's just like I want to help people, you know, I want to bring justice to a lot of things because in today's society it's not really great. So I think that's probably going to be one of the things to think about while I'm in college and see how I can help people. But yeah.
All right. So again, my name is Shanice, and well, one of my struggles, before I came to Charlestown, I was actually a charter school student. I went to Codman Academy, and they kind of structured their program around restorative justice as well, but I didn't feel like I was being challenged, so I didn't try at all. So I ended up failing, and I had to go to Charlestown. And once again, when I got into Boston Public School, I felt like I wasn't being challenged, so I didn't want to try. But then I was told about Diploma Plus and how they'll help you get into the place where you need to be. Like, I felt, they put me in 10th grade, and I felt like I should be in 11th grade by now. Like, I know all this material, it's so easy, why am I doing it? I'm not going to do it again. So I talked to Mr. Pai, I wrote him a letter, and I remember he came and got me, and then he told me that he wasn't going to really allow kids into Diploma Plus anymore because there wasn't enough space. But I wrote him a letter, and that was very professional, and so he wanted to see like what I was about. And when I ended up getting enrolled into Diploma Plus, I really felt like I was being challenged with the work, and I really I could see a rise in my grades, and just like how I felt towards school, my whole attitude changed. Like, I was excited to go to school to learn. And like, I really feel like the teachers there pushed me, and I had a community where if I did have a problem with grades or just understanding the material in general, I could go and talk to them. Whereas with the regular Charlestown school, I felt like I was just a number and just another kid in the class to just sit there and not be hurt. And well, yeah, I guess that's it. That's it.
Awesome, you guys. I've had the privilege of meeting with you a bunch of times in the past few months and hearing your stories and hearing your voice. And I would love to know and share with this group of people, what does restorative justice mean to you and why is it helpful?
For me, what it means to me is the fact that it's a fair game. Everybody gets heard. So, like, there's always going to be, like, more than one story, so you can't just go in there and judge. Everybody inside the restorative justice is open-minded and clear-headed, and it's equal, like, it's fair. Like, if anything, like, they're never going to really judge you or, like, make your punishment over, like, what it really needs to be. And the fact that it's, like, not everybody's getting up on you, and you're going to have people that support you, and everybody talks out of turn. There's never any arguing. It's just a good structured way to resolve a problem. And just because of the fact that you're in there doesn't always mean that you're wrong or you did something wrong. It could be you're there just to get help or even just to make yourself heard and just, I don't know. That's it.
Oh, were you going around both questions?
We can do it however you guys want. So if somebody wants to address that question, I think we're going to open up to more questions in a little bit.
Yes, if you guys feel like anyone got an answer, don't feel like you gotta go down the line.
Circle. All right. Restorative justice means to me kind of like what Sedone said, just everything he said. But to me, it means just as DP, it's like a second chance. You have, in regular school, you have the choice of being suspended, that's it. Here in DP, you get that chance to say, I can redeem myself doing so-and-so, not just being in DP to redeem yourself and get out of school, but to also redeem myself from getting suspended, giving me that last chance, knowing that after that, it's kind of over. If you mess up, that's on you, you know? So it's just a second to make a plan for yourself, and that's what we're kind of here for. The kids that are in DP, we just like to help them, make a plan for them, or they help us. Well, if someone left, right? But to make a plan, just you know, to do it the right way, you know, just don't mess it up because it's your last chance.
To add on to what Paul said, it's exactly what it is, restorative justice, and it's a second chance. And I think that it's helpful for schools because kids have a chance to prove that they can. Kids have the opportunity to show that they won't make the same mistake again, versus just being brought home, being suspended, detention. And I think that also helps benefit how they do in school, because if a student is being told, go home, go home, go home, you didn't listen, it kind of discourages them in a way, because it's like, well, I'm just being sent home, so I might as well not even just do any work. And at home is mostly where kids get distracted anyway, because there's a lot of things that go on at a child's home. So for them to have us that second chance and be like, okay, we're going to make a deal. If you take off your hat as soon as you enter the building, I'll buy you lunch. Or it's not even about really bribing, but just come into like an agreement in a way. And kids can get the work done that they wouldn't get done if they was to be suspended.
Yeah, like restorative justice for me, it's all about student voice. Like that's where we are able to address the issues that we have with rules or things that are going on in the class. Like when we do circles, kids, when you have the talking piece, that's your time to talk. You get to say whatever you want to say, whatever's on your mind, whatever you felt for the past week, you can just say it, let it all out, you can vent, and you're there to listen. Like, no, you're the only voice that's heard and everyone's listening. And that feels really good for students, because I know personally for me, like, oh, when I first had my first circle experience, like I was a little bit nervous, like, oh, what if no one listens? But when you get the talking piece, you see all eyes on you, and you see like they want to hear what you have to say, like, and you know that you have a voice. So for me, restorative justice is all about student voice and just being heard in general.
And it's all confidential.
Yeah.
We have like 8 more minutes before we open it up for some questions. I was wondering if you guys wanted to talk about, like, from your perspective, what are components like that really matter to like bring restorative justice into schools? Like, what are the essential components that make a successful experience?
Well, first, you have to be in a circle. You have to, because, well, okay, see how everyone is right here now, all jumbled up in rows and everything. You can't really get the same effect that you would in a circle, because with a circle, everybody's seen. You're not just seeing the back of somebody's head. You get eye contact with them. It really is, and it's just a powerful thing. Just the circle itself, it makes you feel open and like welcome. Okay, I'll be able to talk. I feel invigorated. I feel like I can jump out of my shell and speak. Yeah, you need to have a circle.
The essential components. I think the talking piece is what makes the circle powerful, because without the talking piece, you'll just have everybody talking and having conversations and side conversations, and the circle is probably, to me, the second most powerful thing after the talking piece, because you all can be in a row and pass the talking piece around, but that talking piece still matters, because each person in this room can have that voice. But being able to see each other and, is helpful, but sometimes it's nerve-wracking, because you have all those eyes on you, and it kind of makes me personally go back in my shell, because it's like, whoa, I didn't, it's just, it's intimidating, but yet it makes you feel important in a way.
Needs to have people that people that can hear what you're saying and be able to talk back to you at it. It also has to have people that can listen. Maybe I'm saying the same thing. It has to have people that can listen to you and not just be one-sided, you know what I mean? Like, it has to have, it's hard to explain. It just has to have that equal thing where so it's not like, oh, he's just on his side, so we're not going to hear his side of the story. We just want to have our side. Because we got, in restorative justice, you just have to be, I guess, could you say neutral on that? Because, like, you can't be on that side, you can't be on that side. You got to be here, you got to be just there. So that's what I feel.
For me, I would say the whole structure, every piece to restorative justice, like, makes a big difference. From the talking piece to the circle, for every little thing in it, it has a reason for it. So therefore, letting anything out of it would make a difference. And another big part is just having a community. And by saying like that, it's like, since it's a small kind of a group, it's like we're kind of a family. So nobody like talks over each other, and we all respect for what we say. I love the whole talking piece part where, like, once you have the talking piece, all eyes on you, everybody's quiet, everybody respects what you say. There's no debating about what you're saying. There's no stupid sayings, there's nothing. Nobody's gonna judge you on it. It's just, you got the talking piece, it's your time. The circle, nobody could talk behind what you're saying. You could see anybody who's trying to talk, and you could stop it right there. And another main point is the leaders that lead the open circle, like such as Mr. Pai. It makes it run a little bit more smoother, knowing that someone has more like experience or more practice running it. So I think every piece has its importance.
You also need empathy, I would like to say, because with restorative justice, it's not really going to work unless you can see yourself in the other person's shoes, because that's when the best ideas for like solutions come up. When you can relate to another person, I feel like that's when the best ideas come up, and that's how you can truly make a change. Because me just sitting here and not really listening, I'm listening to what you're saying, but I'm not truly feeling it, and I can't see myself in your shoes, we're not going to really get anything done, because I won't really be able to give you a truthful solution, because I want a solution that's going to reflect how I would be able to like get help from it, as well as you too. So you also need empathy, and like, well, we have great teachers, so they're really good at that. Yeah.
Do we have time for a few more questions before we open it up?
Questions?
Okay.
Is there maybe before we open up for questions, maybe is there anything that you guys want to share, like just like this is like, I gotta get this off my chest type thing?
Nah.
I know Shanice might have something.
I do. Really, I love circles. Like, I really feel like they should be in every single school, because really with circles, you find so many way better solutions than just suspension. Because when you just have suspension, you're not really solving a problem. Okay, I'll go home, I'll take those 5 days, I won't get anything done, and then probably during those 5 days, I'll probably end up in trouble even more, because I won't be in school. I'll find other things for me to do. So I'll be out in the street, or be places where you know you're not supposed to be. And well, yes, with circles like that, it totally changes that. It disrupts that whole little cycle. You end up still in school, getting an education, but also you learn to take accountability for your actions. You don't go in a circle and say, it's not my fault, I didn't do anything, I'm innocent here. You have to be able to hold yourself accountable for your actions and realize that you're here for a reason. Not only did you do something wrong, not only was there a rule that probably doesn't make sense to you, but you've done something wrong, or you've harmed somebody in this community. So accountability is a really, really big thing that you need for certain.
And it's also a great place to make friends. I've experienced that. It's a great place to make friends, and it's a great place to practice leadership. That's also one thing that I forgot to mention.
I would say, like, you could hear us talk about it and wonder how it is, but you will never get the true feeling until you actually see one in progress.
Which we're going to demo in a little bit, so stick around. But yeah, but being there, you guys have talked a lot about that. So you guys have a really unique role in Diploma Plus, and so Diploma Plus is a program that incorporates restorative justice principles in lots of different ways: the unit circles and advisory, conflict mediation, and the Justice League. So maybe you guys could talk a little bit about your particular role and how that plays out in the community.
And I want to just be clear, like we have like 2 minutes before we
Okay.
need to transition. So
Are we
to question and answers, and then wrapping
Great.
it up to meet through the circle. So
Oh.
maybe that's a question that can be addressed to Mr. Pai and these guys. If you see them, they're going to be around for the next hour and a half, right? So if you have more questions about what restorative justice looks like in Diploma Plus, and I also am there. I'm interning, so I would be glad to answer those questions. But is there anyone that has? We have like time for 1 or 2 questions from you all. So does anyone have a question for these guys? Don't be shy.
How many kids are in the circle?
The entire Diploma Plus. Everybody that's in Diploma Plus has to be involved in the circle.
Yeah, I just meant for any of you. If you were, I know it's like sort of initially skeptical on some of these practices, and what might have affected like changing your mind around that. And now you've spoken very articulately about, you know, your interest and passions for circles and restorative justice.
I was completely skeptical. I really was when I first came, and when I found out that I had to do circles, like we had to sit in a circle and talk, I was like, really, I was just, we're gonna have to sit and talk about our emotions. People are gonna cry, and that's all I thought circles were. It was just, I thought it was gonna be just a big ball, a whole bunch of just emotions flying out there, a mess. But when I actually experienced it, it was totally different. Like it changed my whole perception. Like it really does open your eyes. Like you hear so many different views, and like people from different walks of life, they share their experiences, and then it just impacts you. Like as you go home, you think about things that kids said, and it just like really changes your mind about the way that you see the world itself. Yeah.
I was completely fine with it. Where he's like, you have circles. I was like, okay, we have circles. I thought it was just another part of just the class thing we just do. Like, you just go around, you just gotta do what you gotta do. So I'm like, okay. So, circle, like I remember last year, like, sometimes some of the topics weren't the best. So, I mean, some people was like half asleep, you know, chilling in the back. And that's why when you have a full circle, you can see everybody. If you have a circle where people are sitting in the back, or you have an oval where you can't see every corner, those people can get doze off. So yeah, that's how I saw it as.
I would say for me, I'm a pretty open-minded person. The only thing I'd like to say is that just because you're in a circle doesn't mean that it's mandatory that you have to say everything. Like it can come to you, you could pass. It's not best to like make it like you shouldn't just keep passing. You could throw in little something here and there, and sometimes what you have to say doesn't always have to relate to what the topic's about. You could sometimes just throw in here and there some questions, and even if you don't understand what's going on, you could always like talk about it during the time that you get the talking piece. So it's just, yeah, it's just pretty open.
Unfortunately, we have to say goodbye to these guys and move on via our leaders over here. So if you do have any questions with these guys, I know they'll be hanging up. Can I give them permission to ask you guys? You can say no. Please feel free to ask them. All right. And
Thank you.
Thank you to all the students, and sorry that we have to cut off early. We're running a little bit behind, and they're so wonderful, so sorry we can't speak to them for a little bit longer. But now we'll be making the transition to the workshops.